One question that I get asked all the time is how can there be one true religion when there are so many religions? People always say, I meet people who aren't Christians, but they're good people. How can Christianity, or any religion for that matter, claim to be the one true religion? Isn't that just arrogance? Now, contrary to what you may have heard, that is not the claim that Christianity is making. Here's one way to look at it logically. You could say, when looking at all the religions in the world, that all religions are actually completely false. Now, this doesn't seem true. Religion has formed the whole backbone of human civilization for all of human history. It seems that there's a large attraction to all of these different beliefs. People don't just sacrifice their lives or dedicate their whole lives to a particular religion with all of this fervor if there's nothing to it at all. So you say, okay, they're not all completely false. Well, what if they're all just equally true? Every religion is good. Every religion has some appeal to it. Every single religion, therefore, must be true. Now, this doesn't work either because obviously these religions contradict each other. They're very clearly making claims that are not compatible with each other, that directly contradict each other. So it can't be that all religions are completely false, and it can't be that religions are all completely true. What we end up having to say is that it looks like all religions have some truth in them. Now, what do we mean when we make this claim? When you say that all religions have some amount of truth in them, what you're actually saying is that there is one religion that is the most true. This makes more sense if you take a step back from the word religion, which people have very specific kind of connotations about, and you instead talk about worldviews. Everything in the world is a worldview. Even atheism, that's a worldview. They're all just different ways of looking at the world. So then if you say all worldviews have some amount of truth in them, what you're really saying is that there is another worldview, the view that you're taking of the world, by which you're measuring all these different worldviews against so that you can say, oh, that has some truth, and that has some truth, and that has some truth. You're judging those things by something else, something you're calling the truth. In other words, we're talking about perspective. You're looking at this perspective, and you say, oh, that perspective has some truth in it, and this perspective over here, that has some truth in it too. Well, what are you doing? You're using your perspective that you're assuming is the most true to evaluate the truth in the other perspectives. This is the same thing with physical objects. If you want to measure a physical object to say, see how long it is or how tall it is, you use another physical object, a ruler. And you say to yourself, I trust this ruler. This ruler is authoritatively going to tell me how many inches that this other object is. You measure one of these objects against another object. And just by doing that measurement at all, you're saying that one of them is the most accurate thing that you're going to use as the judge for the other ones. In the same way, in the very act of saying that all of these other perspectives and worldviews have some amount of truth in them, you're implying that there is some larger perspective by which you're able to judge all of the other ones, and that one is the most true. So what is Christianity actually claiming then? Christianity is not claiming in this binary sense that it is true, 100% true, and that all other religions are 100% false. That is not the Christian claim. Christianity acknowledges that all religions have truth in them, but that truth is limited or partial. The way that the church fathers talk about this is that Christianity contains the fullness of the truth, and that any truth that's true in any other worldview will be affirmed by Christianity. So you can imagine a Venn diagram, a complicated Venn diagram with a big circle in the middle that's the fullness of truth, and then all these other little circles that go around it that have overlap with that big circle. And on the inside, there's the thing that's part of the fullness of the truth, and on the outside, there's the thing that is not part of the fullness of the truth. So for example, in Islam affirms that God exists, that there is a God of the gods, and that he is the one God or the true God or Yahweh or the thing that is being itself. And that's shared by Christianity. Now, on the outside, it says Muhammad is his only messenger, which is, of course, not affirmed by Christianity. They share one thing and not another. Christianity goes further and says, well, it's not just that God exists, but that he became incarnate as a man. So Christianity affirms what's true in Islam and goes further and adds its own take to it that goes beyond the original claim of Islam. It's the same with Hinduism. Hinduism says that many deities exist, and Christianity actually, contrary to popular belief, affirms that many deities do in fact exist. Lesser deities, not the same as Yahweh, the one who is the arche, as I put it in my book, but it denies Hinduism's claim that these deities are worthy of worship. Christianity goes farther and says, no, actually, they're fallen demons and they're trying to deceive mankind. Chinese Taoism is another great example. Taoism has this belief that there's this thing called the Tao, which is the principle of reality and truth and being. And Christianity affirms that. On the outside of the circle, Taoism says, well, it's just kind of this impersonal force or principle. It's not a person. And Christianity says, no, the Tao is true, but it goes farther and says, and the Tao is the Logos, and the Logos is Christ himself. This is also how Christianity evangelized in the ancient and the medieval world. When Christians encountered various pagan groups, they didn't just go up to them and say, everything you believe is wrong and dumb, and you're wrong and dumb for believing any of it. Get rid of it all, burn all your stuff, and then become a Christian and forget about all those other things. I don't know where this stereotype came from, but that's not how it went historically. How it went historically is that Christians showed up and said, hey, what do you guys believe? And they said, well, we believe this. And Christians said, yes. That's great. And did you know there's more? The Taoism case is, I think, especially provocative because they went into China, the missionaries, Christian missionaries to China, and said, okay, Taoism, that makes a lot of sense. Did you know the Tao became a man? Justin Martyr is a great example, one of my favorite examples. He was a Greek pagan philosopher. Greek philosophers wore the toga, a certain kind of toga that indicated that they were a philosopher. It was kind of like a uniform because being a philosopher was almost like a religion. It was a certain kind of lifestyle, a certain type of class in the Greco-Roman world. And when Justin Martyr converted to Christianity, he kept wearing his philosopher's uniform because he said Christ didn't abolish the seeking of wisdom in philosophy. He revealed himself to be the thing that we're all seeking. So the true philosopher, in fact, seeks Christ and follows him because he is the truth. So Justin said, I'm still a philosopher, but I'm just a philosopher in the fullness. I really understand what philosophy is pursuing. And you can do this with every other worldview. So you get the sense of what we're talking about. It's not merely that Christianity affirms the truth that's in all other religions and therefore contains all things that are true. Christianity isn't just an amalgam of everything that's true of all these other religions. It also goes farther than any of these other religions into the fullness of truth. So it has unique things about it, the Trinity, the Incarnation, Christ as the Logos, and so on, that are unique to Christianity and not to any other religion. You might say Christianity is everything that's true in every other worldview and more. And here's one of the unique claims of Christianity that I think is especially important for this discussion, which is this claim about what is the truth. So every religion believes in truth. Every religion wants to know the truth and to live in accordance with that truth. That's basic. Everyone believes in that. And every other religious teacher claims to know what this truth is. But Christianity is different. Christianity doesn't claim to know the truth. Christ claims to be the truth. I am the way, the truth, and the life. In other words, in Christianity, truth isn't an abstraction. It's actually a person that you can be in a personal relationship with, and in fact, that you need to be in order to truly know the fullness of the truth. The implication of this is that people who learn any amount of truth in any other worldview are in fact encountering Christ, albeit in a small, fragmented way, a partial way, maybe a dim way. Paul says through a glass darkly. That's a metaphor that gets used a lot because Christ really is the truth. And if that's true, then when you encounter a truth in Hinduism, you're encountering a partial image of the truth, a small piece of Christ, if you want to put it that way. Now, why should we believe that Christianity is the one that is the fullness of truth and not one of these other religions? That's a good question. But again, that's a different question and one that hopefully we will answer on this channel soon. But the main takeaway point is that Christianity is not claiming to be the truth in exclusion to all other religions, in the sense that all other religions are completely false. Christianity affirms the truth that's in every single religion, and it takes all of that to itself and says, and there's more, the fullness of the truth. And that puts all these other things in their right orientation to that truth. And of course, grounded at this center of the whole conversation about truth is the idea that truth is not, again, it's not an abstraction. The Christian claim is that truth is a person.